Right now, two-thirds of Russia's nuclear weapons are hidden in a place most people couldn't even find on a map. Not Moscow, not a bunker, the Arctic. For decades, this region was frozen, empty, and forgotten. Not anymore. Climate change is melting the ice faster than anyone predicted, turning a frozen wasteland into one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on Earth. Russia controls nearly half of the entire Arctic coastline, more than any other nation combined, and as the ice retreats, it's revealing something staggering. Massive oil reserves, enormous gas fields, and a brand new shipping route that could quietly reshape global trade. With Western sanctions choking its economy since the war in Ukraine, Moscow desperately needs new sources of income and new routes that don't depend on countries that now consider it an enemy. This is exactly why the Arctic has become non-negotiable for the Kremlin, even while its military is stretched thin elsewhere. Scientists estimate the region holds around 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and nearly a third of its undiscovered natural gas, a resource base larger than Saudi Arabia's known reserves. One project alone, Vostok Oil, aims to eventually produce over 100 million tons a year, though sanctions have slowed construction and delayed key infrastructure like pipelines and ports. Alongside it, massive liquefied natural gas terminals are being built to ship Arctic gas straight to Asia, completely bypassing European buyers who've shut Russia out. But every single one of these projects depends on one thing working perfectly, a reliable way to move all of it out of the Arctic and onto the global market. Without that, none of it matters. And that's where this story gets a lot bigger. Here's the part most people don't know. Imagine a shipping route that cuts the journey between Asia and Europe by thousands of kilometers, completely avoiding the Suez Canal and the pirate-heavy waters near it. That route already exists. It's called the Northern Sea Route. And it only works because the ice is melting faster every year. Russia calls this corridor sovereign territory, and it's pouring enormous resources into nuclear-powered icebreakers, deep-water ports, and support infrastructure to turn it into a functioning global trade artery it fully controls. If this succeeds, Russia wouldn't just profit from shipping fees, it would gain leverage over a route that could quietly compete with the busiest trade corridors on Earth. But controlling a shipping lane isn't enough on its own, so Russia has been doing something far more aggressive at the same time. Over the past decade, it's reopened and modernized Soviet-era military bases scattered across its Arctic territory, building more than a dozen active installations equipped with radar networks, advanced air defense systems, and coastal missile batteries. One of the most remote sites on Alexandraland, deep in the Arctic archipelago, hosting fighter jets and ranking among the northernmost military outposts anywhere on the planet. This isn't some leftover Cold War relic being maintained out of nostalgia. This is active, ongoing expansion, happening even while Russia's broader conventional military has been badly drained by years of war in Ukraine. So why does the Arctic get treated differently? Why?
And this is where it stops being just Russia's story. Two countries you might not expect just changed the entire balance of power up here. Finland and Sweden abandoned decades of strict military neutrality to join NATO, and almost overnight, that handed the alliance a continuous coastline stretching directly toward Russia's most sensitive Arctic waters. NATO's response since then has been aggressive and fast, more joint military exercises, more submarine patrols, more surveillance flights than at any point since the Cold War ended. Countries like Norway, once quiet Arctic neighbors, are now hosting some of the most intense military buildup seen in the region in decades. The United States, long criticized for falling badly behind Russia's massive icebreaker fleet, has finally started accelerating its own investment to close that gap, while deepening military cooperation with its Nordic allies across the high north. But Russia isn't facing all of this alone either. China, a country with zero Arctic coastline and no legal claim to the region whatsoever, has quietly become one of Russia's most important Arctic partners, joining Coast Guard patrols alongside Russian vessels and even running combined military operations near Alaska's airspace. For China, the appeal is obvious: future trade routes and untapped resources it currently has no access to on its own. For Russia, cut off from Western money and technology by sanctions, Chinese cooperation offers a lifeline to keep these enormously expensive Arctic projects alive long enough to pay off. This partnership isn't built on trust, it's built on mutual necessity, and that alone is reshaping the entire balance of power in one of the most remote regions on the planet. So here's the real question you should be asking yourself. This frozen region that most people completely ignore now sits at the center of global energy supplies, international trade routes, and nuclear deterrence, all at the exact same time. If Russia successfully locks down control of the Arctic, it doesn't just win empty, icy territory, it wins leverage over the world's economy for decades to come, control over emerging trade routes, and a permanent stronghold for its most powerful weapons. Meanwhile, NATO and China are both racing to make sure that doesn't happen unchallenged. The ice up there is melting fast, faster than almost any climate model predicted just a few years ago. But the stakes down here on the ground are only getting colder, and more complicated, by the year. What do you think happens next in the Arctic? Who do you think wins this race for the top of the world? Comment your prediction below, because this story is only just getting started.